Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're checking out the Power Dolls kit, or the new version of the Power Dolls kit here from Plum. As you guys may have seen in the past, I have reviewed the original version that they made before, but if that was like a master grade, then this is like a high grade in comparison, is what I'm expecting from this. This is a part of their new 5-in-M or 5-inch Mecha, so it is definitely going to be smaller and I'm assuming more simple, but it would be interesting to see what changes or improvements are made over their previous version, because although the previous version was larger and probably more complex in terms of the parts, it wasn't perfect and it did have its issues. It's a really cool design, but it'll be interesting to see how they've kind of improved on the design with this new version of it. But this is in 1/48 scale. Let's go ahead and check it out. So we'll take a look around the outside of the box here real quick before we pop it open. Like I said, this is part of their new 5-in-M line, Power Dolls 2, Plum logo up there. And then it's sort of deceptive here on the front with the 2 picture. It almost kind of seems like, okay, maybe I'm getting like a 2-pack in here, when in fact it's not. It is only one. I do think it probably would have been cool if it was sold as a 2-pack. It would have made it more expensive, of course, but like I said, this is in 1/48 scale. And once we open up the box, you'll kind of see what I mean. But if we take a look here at the side, we've got just a close-up look at that illustration. And it is a really nice illustration here, as you can see, with some nice kind of damage and weathering kind of effects on there. It does look quite nice. On the one side of the box, we have a look at some of the included accessories, like the different types of guns that we have included in here, which look pretty nice. We also have the option for removing these parts on the shoulder for additional equipment that we can only expect is going to be coming in future sets. And then here's a look at the articulation of the legs. See, that's one of the weakest points of the original kit, was that the legs were pretty difficult to do anything with. So that's definitely an improvement there. We've got some text over here in Japanese, and then a look at the design there, front and back. And the list price here for this, 4,500 yen. So based on that, you can assume that if this was a 2-pack, it would probably be more around the 8,000 yen, 7,000 to 8,000 yen range, which I think some people would definitely go for. But as you can see, there's plenty of space in the box, and they probably could have made the box slightly larger and just packed 2 in here and made it for, I think, 7,000 to 8,000 yen. I'm sure people would have gone for it just the same, but we'll take a look at all the runners here in just a second. Let's quick take a look here at the instruction manual. The front side is the same. On the back side is just the end of the construction, so it looks like we're probably not going to have too much frills involved, or I spoke too soon. We have some more nice photos and stuff in color here on the inside. There's our color guide right there, some more data about the Power Doll unit right there, some more action poses over here on this side, showing again some of the weaponry, showing some of the articulation gimmicks here in the arm and the leg, the compatibility over here for the flight units and shoulder equipment, which we'll see later. On the inside of our fold-out menu here is just going to be our parts list, and then all the rest of the construction there like that. All right, so no stickers or polycaps with this. Also, kind of unfortunately, no water slide decals included, but here is our A runner, which is going to be the start of some of our off-white colored plastic parts there for the armor. Runner B, a larger runner here, is going to have some more of our off-white armor pieces here for around on the arms and legs. Runner C is going to be in this kind of medium gray color. So far I can say all the colors look basically exactly the same to the larger version. And then runner D here, we've got 2 of these for the last of our off-white parts. Runner E, we also have 2 of, just some more parts there in that medium gray with some nice detail around on some of those parts there, as you can see. Runners F and G are going to be a couple of smaller runners in some different colors there, blue, and then a green part here, which is something that we did not have in the larger version. I'm guessing that's just there for the visor and the head, so that's nice. And lastly, runner H for a few more parts there for like the joints and frames, and that's it. Alright guys, so here is the kit all put together, and they weren't lying about the 5-inch Mecha thing. It definitely is pretty small, but he's still got that thickness to it, of course. So really cool design that actually fixes a lot of the issues that the larger 1/35 scale version has, but it does come with its own set of issues as well, so it's not perfect by any means, but I think for those of you guys who are fans of the design, this does give you a really nice option. It's much less expensive than the 1/35 scale version, and like I said, it is nicer in a lot of ways, although, I mean, there's pros and cons between the 2 kits, and we'll take a look at a comparison between the 2 here in just a moment. But I think it's a really good looking design here, a really good looking release here of the power loader. Well, let's start off first by just taking a look at some of our accessories here. And discussion of the accessories is going to be a very short conversation because we only have just our 2 weapons and that's it. So the first of which is our assault rifle here, which is just going to be 2 parts with a seam down the middle. So you are going to have some seam lines on this, and that is going to be a theme that we're going to be talking about a lot with this kit, as that's kind of like the main drawback of this release is just the seam lines on it. But as far as the weapon goes, I mean, still nice design, nice details around on that. And then for our grenade launcher, this as well is just 2 pieces put together, and that's it, just 2 halves. So you'll have a seam line kind of going all the way around this one as well, but again, really nicely detailed and cool looking weapon there for that. Now, since we're on the topic of seam lines, let me point out the other ones to you. On the bottom side of the front of the chest here, right there, that's kind of 2 pieces that are put together and a seam line right down the middle of the lower part of the chest. The top part of the chest is a single piece. The shoulder part right here on the kind of off-white parts, there's a seam line down the side right there. Down here on the lower leg right there, there's a seam down the middle of the lower part of the leg on the front and back there, as you can see. And then on the inner side of the thigh, if you really want to count that as a seam line or not, I don't know if you kind of want to count that as just a breakup of the armor. It looks like it's a single armor piece with a seam down the middle of it though, so I think that's how I would consider that. Other than that, that's really about it. Honestly, most of the kit is designed in a really nice way that all the armor pieces go together to eliminate most of the seam lines, just in a couple of these areas here and there. But again, just based on the size of it, I think the construction is really quite interesting. That's one of the interesting aspects about this. I thought that the design was done in a better way to have fewer seam lines, which is great. And it's also done in a way that's very familiar to like something like an entry grade kit from Bandai or like a 30 minutes missions kit because of the simplicity of the construction, but it really seems to do a lot with the very simple construction and low part count. So that said, because of the smaller size and much lower part count compared to its 1/35 scale version, it's obviously going to be sacrificing a lot of the detail and part separation, but we have some pros and cons in terms of the articulation. There is a double ball joint in the neck, and I want to try to show that articulation off to you guys, but it's kind of hard to get to because the head's very small and then kind of packed inside around this like cowl part there. Kind of hard to reach, but with the neck joint articulation, it should be pretty good, and it's better. I want to say it's better than the 1/35 scale version just because the head is a little bit better articulated, but a lot of the reason for that is just because of the fact that it doesn't have the tube parts on the 1/35 scale version. It has the tube parts out the front and out the back, which add more detail but also hinder the articulation a little bit. The separation of the green part there for the eyes is nice, and so that adds a nice little bit of detail up in there. In the midsection here, it's connected via a ball joint, but you're not really going to get much like forward and back, side to side bend or anything out of that. Basically just rotation at the midsection here. Around on the back side, you have these 2 little cap pieces right there for where later on I can only assume we're going to be getting flight parts for this, for the flight pack, and so you'll be able to pop those caps out and then attach the flight unit parts into there. The shoulder is just on a ball joint right here, but the shoulder armor itself can be moved up and down independently. You can bring the arm out to the side to about 90 degrees to the torso there, like so. The top part of the bicep doesn't rotate, but it's actually kind of like the lower part of the bicep, which is kind of a part of the elbow joint sort of. You have rotation above and below the elbow joint there, so it's kind of an interesting joint design for that. But you only have one point where it's going to bend, which is going to give you a little bit more than 90 degrees, but that's going to be about it. Here on the back side of the hand, this armor piece here can be kind of extended out so you can move it back kind of a little bit. You could extend that kind of much further out and have it really, really far back, but you really don't need that. It just kind of pops in there and floats somewhat freely there as a cover behind the hand. Just going back up here to the shoulder real quick before we move down to below the waist. These parts are, again, very obviously made to be interchangeable for later versions. If I can get this off of here. There we go, like that. And at the moment of recording this, I know we have at least 2 other variants that are planned to be released, I believe in December and January, coming up pretty soon, and both of which use alternate equipment here for the shoulders. So I'm going to be using this one for the main version here, but the variants will use different equipment up there. Now, we don't really have any skirt armor or anything really to talk about here. Up underneath the waist, though, you do have a hard point right there for plugging this onto an action base if you wanted to have this in a kind of flying pose or jumping pose or whatever. The hip joint is just on a straight peg, but you can kind of extend it out a little bit so that you can get a pretty good range of movement out to the side if you kind of tuck the armor piece in there. You can get the legs out to about there, and you can, because of the ankle joint, you could actually still get a flat stance on the ground if you have the leg all the way extended out to the side, but otherwise, I mean, rotating the leg up to the front, you can bring it pretty far here as well. We do have a double joint here for the knee, and once again, much better than the 1/35 scale version, just mainly because it doesn't use the tube, like little piping parts on the larger version. It has like a tube rubber pipe detail that goes up into here, which is nice for the detail, but it definitely hinders the knee articulation quite a bit. So this is much better if you wanted to just have some more articulation. And then while we're here at the ankle, the front of the foot will be individually articulated like that. And you can see we do have a hollow gap underneath the toe there, right there, unfortunately. But the whole foot itself will be able to rotate side to side like so, and then forward and back quite a bit here like this. So really nice range of movement here for the ankle. That'll be able to get into basically any position that you need it to. And then this little bit here at the top of the foot is also attached via a small ball joint. Now the only real thing that the foot is missing is any twisting, any turning. Here at the ankle joint, you aren't able to rotate the foot at all. So even though you're able to bend it left to right and bend it forward and back, you aren't able to rotate that. So if you wanted to have the foot at like a little bit kind of wider stance or something, it doesn't do anything except line up perfectly straight here with the whole leg. And now for a couple of size comparisons here with a 1/44 scale Gundam kit, something we all should be pretty familiar with. As you can see, it's going to be very comparable in size. Actually, it's going to be slightly taller than the 1/44 scale strike here, and obviously much different proportions, but it's generally about the size of your standard HG Gundam kit. And then of course, compared with the larger original version, now I still have the different shoulder equipment attached onto this from the last review that I did reviewing that stuff, but you guys can see the size difference between this. So it's very much sort of like a high grade or entry grade version compared to a master grade version, even though I again would not necessarily call this a master grade version because it doesn't have the full inner frame. It's definitely not as nice as what we typically think of as a Bandai master grade kit, but it's just sort of the comparison between the two. You guys can sort of get the idea. It's more detailed in more parts and kind of more articulation in theory, but actually I think this one honestly has a lot better, the smaller version has much better articulation in a lot of the areas where the articulation does really count for doing a lot of different poses, and we'll see that here in just a moment. But there's definitely pros and cons between the two versions. The nice thing is that we have more options because it's a really cool design that I hear a lot from a lot of people anytime I take a look at this larger kit, which I've done a couple of different reviews on, is that there are a lot of you guys out there who do enjoy the design, but the kit is either number one, hard to find, hard to get, and then even if you can find it, it can be very expensive. Now, the smaller version is still pretty pricey for what you get, but at least it's going to be more available, and like I said, we do have two other versions of it coming out as well. So all right, just to end the review here, we'll take a look at a few different poses that you can do here with this. Now, obviously, with only two gun accessories and just a pretty simple, straightforward body, it doesn't have like a big backpack or a shield or beam sabers or any other kind of weapons or accessories or anything, so it's going to be relatively limited in terms of what you can really do with this. But again, that's one of the great reasons why we have more versions of it coming out. That'll give us more options in terms of different accessories. But still, I think the main draw with this kit is just going to be that cool design that this has. Is just such a really awesome design, especially for those of you who like your robots extra thick. And as I've been saying kind of throughout the review, there's definitely pros and cons between this and the 1/35 scale version. Ultimately, I think if you had to ask me which one was better, probably this version is better in a lot of ways, although there's definitely, like I said, pros and cons between the two. So it just kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you just want the kit not necessarily to do all that much, but just be larger and have more detail and be just a kind of a bit more of an impressive model overall, I think the larger version is still better for that. But if you wanted to actually do more with it, play with it more, pose it more, and not have to worry about stuff falling apart, this is definitely a much more solid kit as well. And plus, it's the cheaper version as well. So I mean, if that's what you're looking for, I think this is definitely the better version to go for. But honestly, both are nice in their own kind of respective ways. If there's one thing that I do wish that would have been included with this is maybe a couple other different hand options. On the larger version, we did have a couple of hand options, which was nice. I think it had weapon holding hands, closed fists, and open expressive hands. It really would have been nice to have those as options here with this one. I'm not sure off the top of my head if the future versions that are coming out of this smaller size one are going to have more hand options. I don't recall at the moment, but hopefully they will. Hopefully that'll be something to be included with future releases for this. That said, I think if you wanted to just swap the hands for just some like HG Gundam hands, I think you could very easily do that, and that would definitely give you a lot more hand options if that's what you're looking for this kit. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the review. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you think about this kit? A nice, newer, smaller version of the awesome power loader design here from Power Dolls 2 from Plum. If you guys want to check out some more mecha models for yourself, the link to USA Gundam Store will be down in the video description below, as always, so check that out. Got all sorts of different mecha models from all the different companies there, as well as paints, tools, supplies, everything else that you guys might be looking for, so check that out. And as always, guys, thank you so much for all of your support, liking the video, commenting, subscribing. I hope that you guys enjoyed taking a look at something a little bit different here today. I love this design, and I'm really excited that we have kind of new versions of it coming out, so it's very cool. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.